Right, before we do get into this, because I do understand the point, I would like to frame up another opinion, because a lot of my body also agrees with this. But essentially, WWE started the network way before anybody else was even thinking about streaming services, and then 7 years later, sold it for $1 billion. So really, they have absolutely smashed any kind of business plan they may have had. Like, if you sell anything for $1 billion, you should get a round of applause. Look at me, I'm not even worth $1. If you bought me for $1, you should be asking for your money back. That doesn't mean there aren't other elements that we can dissect though, because ever since the WWE Network was born into this world in 2014, it did have plenty of ups, and of course, as you know, it also had plenty of downs. Even if throughout all of that, it was always very good value for fans. And you try and argue that, you're mad. $10 a month for all the pay-per-views and any kind of retro show that your brain could think of. You were sat there on your ass one day and went, oh, I want to watch Mankind vs. Taker from King of the Ring 98. You just went bloop, 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 because you're using a strange remote control, and bada bing, bada boom, it appeared on your screen. I remember when you had to get a videotape, put it into a videotape player, then go, and just scroll and scroll and scroll until you got to your designated position. So it was the ultimate in fan service, and I personally did love it. But yes, if you do go back and listen to what WWE was saying when they did will it into existence, well, we never really got there. Because one, the whole point was to replace pay-per-view revenue with revenue from this that would exceed anything they could do working with anybody else, meaning it was more money into WWE's coffers. But also in that January of 2014, officials were telling everybody, in America alone, we think we're gonna have around 2 to 3 million subscribers. I don't want to make anybody sad, but that did not happen. And there were many reasons for this too, and I know it's a tried and tested and boring argument, but a lot of people felt like they were getting enough wild wrestling entertainment just from scrolling through Twitter or going to YouTube, so they didn't bother. And as mad as it may sound, saying that you could get WrestleMania for a $10 a month package, well, it left a lot of people going, it doesn't really have the allure that it once did, because that's for some reason what human beings do. If you are presented a premium product, you expect to pay premium prices, and when you don't mentally, you just kind of knock it down a few pegs. All of this was happening too when the likes of the UFC and big boxing matches were proving that the idea of pay-per-view wasn't dead just yet. Because there wasn't a need to drive fans to this $50 price point event, I think we could all say that some of the shows, some of them, may have been a little bit lackluster. Back in the Attitude Era, for example, you had to put on the best show possible when it came to Backlash because you wanted to get as many buys as you could. But fast forward to, I don't know, Fastlane 2019, is anyone extra really going to sign up for the network because of that? Probably not. So you can kind of do whatever the hell you want. I mean, there was kind of a switch around because Raw and SmackDown became the big shows, with pay-per-view kind of pushing you towards them, and then the network in America hit around 1.5 million subscribers, and it just hit a wall. And sometimes it would go up and sometimes it would go down, but it never got to this magic place of 3 million, which is why around about 12 months ago, WWE had the idea, well, maybe we can sell the thing, which they did recently, to Peacock and NBC. It just means they probably realized they'd found their ceiling. And as we know, in the world of wrestling, when you found your ceiling, in walks Lance Archer and he throws somebody through it. It's not like WWE just ignored this either. Far from it. They were changing their program constantly, from the likes of Swerved, if you remember that, to all the amazing documentaries that you should be watching right now. Or at least when we finish this video. However, there was another mandate, which was let's make these pay-per-views as long as we possibly can. And they were increased so WWE could start singing about watch time and audience retention, which was good for stockholders and the share price. But for people like you and I, we had to watch WrestleMania 35, which went on for over 7 hours. And I love wrestling, it's one of the greatest things ever, but I don't want to do anything for 7 hours. Before that one person says it, no, that includes sex. If you go and have sex for 7 hours, your thing is going to hurt. This then became the idea for every pay-per-view, which proved that sometimes more isn't more, and you should go with the whole less is more concept, and this kind of scared your casual fan away. And I know that because I had a bunch of people that kind of sit on the fringe when it comes to pro wrestling, and when they heard how long some of these shows were, they were like, yeah, I'm alright, I'll just catch the highlights. So they essentially decided it wasn't worth their time. I don't think that kind of stuff is happening if we had stuck to the magic pay-per-view length of 3.5 hours. So you could break it down and say that we just gave the audience too much food to eat and we filled them up, meaning even when we did have these crazy big matches that people wanted to see, when you also learned you had to get through 6 hours, well, you can probably take it or leave it. Going back to that earlier shift too, yes, because of the money that Fox and the USA Network paid for Raw and SmackDown, the pay-per-views almost came second fiddle. And you can't get Raw and SmackDown on the network till like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks later, or whatever it is. So there you are thinking about spending your $9.99, and unless you want to see Mankind come off the Hell in the Cell, maybe you just can't be bothered. In short, the network was meant to set WWE up for life because they thought pay-per-view and TV was going to die. And yet here we are in 2021 and television is still so important, mostly because producers are absolutely obsessed with live sports. It still doesn't explain why we didn't get a Legends House 2. And yes, if you're wondering, I did watch the entirety of the first season. But you shouldn't do that because it's quite depressing now because so many people have passed away. And yeah, on top of that, I never really understood why you'd want a show showing off wrestlers' tattoos. Didn't really do anything for me. So it is a weird one because there is still a lot of essential viewing on there. Any interview that Stone Cold Steve Austin does is gold. The Last Ride documentary, all of the 24s, some of the Table for Threes are really entertaining. But while it was kind of a draw, it wasn't a big enough of a draw. Hence why WWE just sold it. Or if nothing else, it wasn't where they wanted to be financially, which is why when somebody walked up and said, hey, we'll give you $1 billion, they went, yes, please, we'll take that. And even though it is $200 million over 5 years, I'm 99% sure that in all of the time since 2014, WWE didn't make that money, so they win. That's where this argument kind of gets murky when it comes to success or failure, because WWE just tied up another deal, meaning they're going to be cash rich until at least 2026. And again, both the WWE Network and this new Peacock deal, well, it's great value for fans. So what are you going to do? I mean, it did save us a lot of money. If we had been paying for WrestleMania since 2014, that would have been a minimum, I'm being conservative here, of around about $300. And you can do a lot with that. Think of all the food you could get. So it is a hard one, but maybe that's the reason why we can't call it a massive success, because this wasn't the plan and it was meant to take over the world. All I know is that it did bring me a lot of entertainment, and for that one reason, I know that I am grateful. Even though it took around about 78 years before it came over to here in the UK. But I understand, I'm British, I'm English, I'm scum. Somebody kicked me in the gut. Another big question we have, just as we wrap up, is what happens to the WWE Network in other territories, like where I am right now? Does it get the same kind of service? Do we get less documentaries? Are they still going to make money from it? Do they even care? Are we going to be thrown under the bus? At the moment, nobody knows. Maybe they're even trying to sell it, much like they have just in the United States. So who the hell knows what the future holds? Also, wherever it does happen to end up, if you could fix the search function, I know I would massively appreciate it. Sometimes I type in WrestleMania and the network goes, hey, you want to watch Great Balls of Fire? I'm like, I absolutely do not want to watch Great Balls of Fire. I want to watch WrestleMania. So then I type in Royal Rumble, it goes, hey, you want to watch the Survivor Series? And then I start to worry that there's something wrong with my fingers, but it's not. It's the WWE Network trolling my ass, and I can tell you this, I get enough trolling online as it is. We've gone off on a tangent. That one guy's gonna be so mad. Potatoes. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about the WWE Network. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Did you enjoy it? Will you miss it? Not really, because it's still around. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. If you want to read articles like this, you can do it over on whatculture.com. We've got social media. Go and check it out. And as you're out here on YouTube, there's some videos right there. Give them a click and stay with us. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching. And no, I know no other information about the Peacock deal. I don't know how it's going to work. All I do know is that you're going to be paying less and you're still going to be able to watch all this wrestling content, starting with Fastlane and then moving on to WrestleMania. My big worry is that because you want to drive more people in, we go back to having like 47 pay-per-views a year. Please don't do that, WWE. 12, I promise, is more than enough. See ya.